All right, what's our topic today?
We're going to do a quick list of species slash races that are awesome for champion fighters.
Perfect. So we're delving into fighter, specifically the champion subclass, and figuring out, in our opinions,
Mm-hmm.
what the roughly best species are for them.
Yep.
Mind you, like depending on what kind of character you're trying to create, some of these would be not relevant whatsoever because maybe you have a certain story you want to tell with your character.
Yep.
We're just looking at game mechanics though, and what we think mechanically would work well.
Yep.
Okay, do you want to start first or should I? Well, I suppose first we should say, very first we're looking at 2014 rules, or sorry, 2024 rules.
Yeah.
We're not going into 20 or all of the, mind you, it's not legacy. It's just older stuff that hasn't
Mm-hmm.
become legacy yet and been updated.
Yep.
But we're looking at just a straight 2024, so player's handbook DMG,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll delve into the older stuff.
Yep.
All right, you start or I?
You can go ahead first.
Okay, I have notes.
I don't.
Okay, so
I like to do it off the top of my head because it's just whatever comes to me first.
that's
Which
fine.
feels the most authentic.
Do you want to do them in order or just randomly throw things out?
Go ahead and go in order if you want.
Okay, do you want high low, low high,
Probably
highest ranking, or like lowest?
let's go from lowest to highest.
Okay, so for me, the lowest ranking, mind you, it's still like really good,
Mm-hmm.
is the orc. Mind you, it's notable that there's no longer a half orc.
Yeah.
They went in, they removed a lot of those half species based on they weren't happy with how they were being received or portrayed in terms of how it was racially implied.
Yeah,
But
there's a small subsection of people who obsess about all the little things
yes,
instead of just having fun and moving forward and growing and learning
yeah.
and sharing in the experience of playing games with each other.
So now we just have straight orc, which notable. You mentioned earlier that orc actually no longer is a something in the monster manual.
Yeah, I heard of that, and I'm not entirely certain if it's 100% true.
I suppose we'll know in the next week or so,
Yeah.
or depending on when this is released, maybe it's already confirmed.
Yes.
All right, so for me it's orc because well, you get adrenaline rush, which is generally really good. It's, mind you, it's not great in that it's limited
Mm-hmm.
on the amount of times you can do per day, based on proficiency bonus. But it is basically a bonus action dash that gives you temporary hit points, which as a fighter, so much of the time you're trying to get up to things, and a time where you're spending your action doing a dash, you're not accomplishing anything, which feels really, really bad to not get to actually do damage when,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a fighter, that's kind of your big thing. Additionally, they have a specific ability which is called, sorry, my note, Relentless Endurance, which makes it so that when they get knocked down to 0 hit points for the first time in a day, they would then go back up to 1. Which notably, this actually happened in the last campaign that I ran. We had a player Max who was dying a bunch, and then he made a barbarian half orc,
Yes.
and then it was a creature that did, I think it was like 70 damage in one turn before he was raging, but he was still okay because he was a half orc, and then he just popped back up to 1, and the healer got him. He was just good again. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
the relentless endurance there is actually really, really good to give your healers a chance to do things if you're going to have that onslaught of damage.
Yep.
So that's my pick for my number 3 there. I think the orc is generally actually very well balanced.
Yep. Well, in my opinion, I would say Goliath is probably be a pretty solid one. You get some elemental damages depending on what subspecies you choose. They are fairly durable in themselves, as they have various uh, depending on which one you choose, you have some endurance abilities, some maneuverability options to get in and around. The maneuver, I believe it's the Storm Goliath, off the top of my head, has
Yeah.
that teleport ability.
Yes.
You can pop in. So
Absolutely.
that's always a solid move. If you can teleport as a fighter champion,
Yep.
that 30 feet right next to the enemy,
As a bonus action.
as a bonus action across the terrain, that's awesome. Wizard is hiding on the other side of the crevasse. You teleport
Perfect.
right over to them.
There's an enemy in between you two.
Yeah, you need to get around an enemy to come at the attack a opponent on the other side that's attacking a squishy ally. Awesome. It is a really good ability. The standard Goliath, Stone Goliath, with its Stone's Endurance, makes you a little more durable, much like an orc. You can't switch between the subspecies, so whatever you choose at the first level, you're pretty much stuck with. But they all offer something really nice.
I honestly agree with that very, very much, to the point where that was my number 2. Personally,
my problem on the Goliath is that it is a bit of a choose situation, and
yeah,
you have
it
to
doesn't.
you have to plan into it.
So that's my thing as well. So one thing you didn't note, which I think is really important as well with Goliath, that's my number 2, is its
35-foot movement.
Yeah, its 35-foot movement also really helps you close that gap. But I think that there's something else as well, which should be thought about when you're creating the character. It can be really tempting to pick that what was it, the stone giant, where you reduce by I think it's a D12 plus your fighter level.
Yeah.
Or plus your constitution. That's what it is.
Probably pull it up and look at it.
No,
quickly.
it's fine. I think it's D12 plus constitution. So, my opinion, that doesn't upgrade. That doesn't stay gaining strength the higher you get.
I agree, and that's why I put the Goliath down in third place. Is of a lot of its abilities doesn't really upgrade much.
I think that you can solve that by going and taking, what is it? I think it's Hill Giant that goes and knocks something prone. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe so. That inherently holds true of having value because advantage is always valuable. And if you can bonus action knock something down before, as a, let's say that you're action surging into a level 5 fighter multi attack to get 4 attacks, now your species just gave you advantage on 4 attacks in a row, which I think might do much better than, let's say, a fire giant that is adding a D10 of damage, right?
I do agree that advantage is a very powerful feature.
So I think that when
and plus, and not to mention, champion fighter, where you get that extra critical hits at 19, and I think it goes up to 8. It goes into 18 at higher levels.
That's true, and actually, there's even something a little bit more into there. So you actually get an additional movement in there as well.
Yeah.
Yep. I believe it's when you crit that you can additionally move around. I believe it's half your movement speed, which is generally very nice, which it could tie in really nicely with Storm. But I don't know. I really like the idea of being mindful of that early choice as a Goliath. Mind you, fire can be really tempting. Let's say you're level 1 doing a D10 of damage, do an additional D10. But when you're looking towards those later levels, having that advantage for all of your attacks can be much more impactful.
Yep.
But that's my number 2, which I guess was your number 3. So we're still on the same page there.
Yep.
What's your number 2?
What would be my number 2? I would probably say dwarf. You get a good amount. You get extra health in there. They're pretty sturdy overall. They have resistance to poison. They're a very good overall choice. They're just a little more durable.
That's reasonable.
And that's easy. It's an easy one, and it grows over time.
That's true. The only thing that really held me off from picking dwarf was that it is just a +1 health. So, whereas most games occur between the game level ranges of 5 to 10, in my opinion, at 10, the top end, having 10 more health, I suppose it could be impactful. It could be the deciding factor. But for me, that made it rank a little bit less than some other options.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a bad number 2, though.
Yeah.
Dwarf. I really did have to debate that one.
It gets the points on simplicity, and it grows over time.
It does. Plus, you
You
got
got dark vision and a bunch of other little.
the poison resistance
Yeah,
can
poison
also really come in.
resistance is nice too, particularly depending on your campaigns.
So my number one, I'm assuming this is the same as your number one, is the human. We'll find out in a moment. Mine is the human. So you got the two origin feats for a fighter. The two big origin feats to me for a fighter, mind you, you could go different routes and take like get something like skilled, right? But or whatnot. But I think that the big standouts for a fighter is definitely tough and savage attacker. The tough giving +2 health per level, which is very strong. That's very strong. And then savage attacker, if it lets you reroll a hit or a die when attacking once per turn, and if you're using one of those weapons like a great axe or a glaive that has like one big die, not like a two-handed sword where it's the two medium-sized dies, that being able to re-roll, because my god, does it feel bad swinging like a great axe for 1 damage plus modifier, right? But that allowing you to re-roll that, plus you're getting the extra health from tough, I feel like it's a really solid pick. Additionally, getting heroic inspiration is also very huge in that if you would roll a 1, because heroic inspiration allows you to roll after you've already rolled, re-roll after you rolled, you can correct for one of them really bad rolls.
I do agree. Human is exceedingly good. You are kind of narrowed in towards like a specific combination of sets of combinations of of origin feats. I would also add in that you could always go with the whole option of having, if you choose the right backgrounds, and this is kind of a thing. Some people have already decoupled the origin feat from the background
I personally agree.
in their homebrew campaigns.
It's actually kind of built in that you can already do it on D&D Beyond. I've already been experimenting with it, and I agree with it. Wholeheartedly agree. Just make whatever background you want and take from the other ones.
Yeah.
Assuming it's a fair trade.
You suggested tough and savage attacker. Simply like say wizard or magical initiate. Would
I
be
was
good.
looking at those. What were you debating?
You
Boom
toss
Blade?
on. You toss on like shield.
Okay.
Or shield or a few cantrips, just the right ones, and you get good optionality out of the character or in various situations. And you already are a pretty decent, durable character as a champion fighter, and you also are pretty good at landing your hits. I was really tempted to go with human myself.
But you didn't.
Yeah, it's one of the options.
Did you take something with flight? Maybe Dragon's Breath?
Dragonborn is awesome. Yeah, let's go with Dragonborn.
Was that what you picked?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the case of, I have to asterisk this whole situation. In the case of fighter and champion fighter, the 2024 options all the species have all awesome options for your character, depending on how you want to build them and what you make your choices with. If you go with elf, you get a few more options in magical territories and a few other fun things that can cover you in various other areas. If you go with human, then you have those 2 feats and the heroic inspiration, which makes it more consistent. But the origin feats, are not nearly as strong as regular feats.
Oh, not nearly.
And but with the exception of, say, like if you have tough and savage attacker, which are more consistency feats.
Yep.
But if you go with the magic initiative, it's you get that tool optionality of the character in itself.
I wonder is there any good bonus action spells that you can go and pick up besides perhaps shield?
Shield would be reaction.
Is there any good ones like that you can pick up that will consistently be able to help you? Or I guess it gives you level 1 spells, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's not
it gives you a level 1 spell, and it gives you 2 cantrips. And you're going to have to pick through there, depending on how you want to focus your character during combat. You can always pick an offensive cantrip and an offensive first level spell for those range situations, but that's not always the best option.
No, not at all. Especially if you're already
Yeah.
planning on meleeing with a great weapon or whatever it may
Yeah.
be.
So, it gets a little complicated when it comes to picking species for any for any particular class.
I think that yeah, for any particular class,
But
I
I
think
do
it
agree
becomes
that
easier
I
when
do
you know
agree
what
with
the
that
sub.
human is an awesome choice. Ethan pretty much sits in the top spot.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the easy option. Probably the other three are basically really close, or four, like Orc, Goliath, Dragonborn are all really good options right around there, and then all the rest are basically just
Fun flavor
fun flavor variants,
like
or
Azamar and
or
Elf
yeah,
and
filling
whatnot.
in some other spots in there. Azamar's a pretty good option in
Oh,
itself.
yeah,
because
it
you got
is
your
worth noting.
aura
A
effect.
lot of the other ones, they aren't necessarily bad ones.
Yeah.
Like especially even like things like the gnome, you could do really cool things with a gnome as a champion fighter, but they've even changed things to make this much more doable because
Yeah.
small races or species no longer have disadvantage for attacking with heavy weapons. It actually is just for melee weapons, it's 13 strength requirement, and for ranged weapons, it's a 13 dex requirement.
Yeah. The other thing that helps for fighters or any marshals when it comes to some of the smaller species slash races is that they smaller species slash races no longer have that 25 movement. They're
Yep.
brought
Oh,
up to
yes.
that 30, so they're pretty even across the board.
I was surprised to see that they actually left Goliath with a 35
Yeah.
while setting everything up to 30 that were the lower mounts.
Now you get when you do something like that, it turns into a situation where now that 35 movement for Goliath and Wood Elf,
Wood Elf gets 35 also?
and Wood Elves get 35 as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't remember if Wood Elf is also included in the list for 2024. They removed a lot of the subspecies from the original option, so I kind of forget
Yeah.
between the two. We kind of like blend back and forth in our group. So we end up with that kind of messy situation where, hey, I'm going to just play a tabaxi. And we're going to go that route.
So are you sticking with Dragonborn as your number one, or are
Yeah,
you going
I'm
with
going with
or are you
Dragonborn.
putting human up there?
Human is... You can like take the top four,
yeah,
and you can slide them around interchangeably to the
because of how close they are.
They are so close. Tough and savage attacker basically is like taking a splash of your orc and a splash of your stone Goliath and throwing it into human and stuff like that. As well as dwarf. You got that extra health on there.
I agree with that. Plus, as a dwarf, you can also still take tough or savage attacker.
And then it doubles up and it expands it even more.
Yeah. All right. Let's expand off into the 2024 stuff. Or, sorry, outside of the 2024 stuff and into the older stuff.
Yep.
Give me just a moment to click the rock.
Click the rock.
Click the rock.
Click the rock. Clicking the rock.
I will let it out clicking the rock. All right. And notes. All right. You get minor spoilers into what mine are. All right. So I started early with the 2024 one. So I think you should start with this one for the 2014s. In order, what's the top three, the third one for you?
Oh, a champion fighter.
Yes, for champion fighter.
Picking 2024 champion fighter and taking one of the older species.
Yeah, there's about 30 something species.
Yeah, there's over 30. If you start adding in the ones that are legacied as well.
Fair.
What I would say for a fighter is awesome one is say a Minotaur for third.
Minotaur is an interesting one.
Because
you
got hammering horns, you can rush in, you can pound away with your attack. you get a bonus on your charge. Or so if you're coming in, the only problem with having a bonus to charge is that once you're in, you're no longer getting that bonus.
It's
But
very
still,
situational.
it's completely awesome. So because you're still charging in and then getting that good initial
I agree with
hit
that.
right in there, and that is an awesome one in itself. They're pretty beefy. They have a bonus feature to their strength. I think that treats them as a size larger when calculating their strength and carrying and
Similar to the
pulling.
Goliath.
Yeah, similar to the Goliath. So you can really, if you have a cart that's loaded down with a bunch of stuff, you can pull it along pretty well, unless you decided to dump strength. But even then, if you dump strength, you're still getting a solid boost to your lifting and hauling.
Yeah.
But that asterisk right there, that is often a thing that in many D&D groups
You
overlook.
don't track encumbrance.
It's not even just encumbrance. It's maximum lift and carry capacity.
I mean, in this last session, we just acquired over almost 25,000 coins. That must weigh how much?
It weighs a lot, and particularly if you're playing a character that has really low strength and that runs into a situation. Trust me, I know, because I had a kobold in the other campaign prior to that with Matt.
Yep.
And we got towards the end, and there was numerous occasions from the Black Dragon on, and when your Grung wrestled it to the ground and poisoned it to death.
Yep.
That I ran into a situation where we started getting enough gold that my poor little kobold could not carry it all. And I had to hand it off to the rogue that had the Darren's Instant Fortress to store in the coffers.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes when encumbrance does kick in, and having a Minotaur that can really haul along stuff and get into pounding is a really good option.
I like the idea, and thematically it feels really fun as a character. Mm-hmm. I just didn't select it myself because it felt more on the situational side. But I do think that it's a good option. Yeah.
Not to mention, as a Minotaur, you're good at going through all mazes.
That's true, and you always know where north is.
Yeah.
You're exceptionally good at navigating.
Yep.
All right.
So you don't have to go up and pick the Outlander background if you're going with D&D 2014.
For me, including all of the older species into it, mm-hmm. I've still selected the 2024 human as my third best. Which I don't think I need to necessarily argue my points, because we kind of already went over that. But I still think it makes it into the top 3.
You expanded...
I expanded to allow the 2014 stuff, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't allow... Because it's of all currently allowed stuff.
Yeah. I was just going to go with the mental process of, hey, we're just now doing a list for...
Oh, no. I expanded it to allow everything.
Okay.
Because for there it makes the interesting comparison of, well, how does the new stuff compare to the old stuff?
Yeah, I do agree that the 2024
it's
human
exceptionally
is really
good.
Yes.
Yeah, so for me it's still it's my just not top 2 or top 1 for me. It's my top 3. Mm-hmm. I'll explain the top 1 and 2, but I mean, we already know roughly my reasoning for the human. It's just really good between tough savage attacker and heroic inspiration. You get a nice little trifecta there of general consistency to the character that was way more than a lot of species give in terms of consistency to a character. But that's my number 3. What's your number 2?
What's my number 2?
Yeah, what's your number 2?
Well, that's a fun bit of complexity. My number 2 is probably going to be a Harengon.
A Harengon.
Yeah, a Harengon.
I was looking at those.
You got your bunny hop getting in. You have.
What's the distance on that?
It increases as you level up based on your proficiency. It's 5 times your proficiency.
Okay, so it starts at 10, which is already decent.
Yeah, and
let me mute my phone.
And the really nice thing about that is that when you do that, you don't proc opportunity attacks or attack of opportunities.
So that means you can use it to disengage as well?
Yeah, you can. extricate yourself from a dangerous
Does
situation, or you can do what I did with my paladin, then one and enter into a dangerous situation and get killed instantly.
Is it additional movement on top of your movement?
It's its separate own movement.
Okay, so it doesn't burn that as well. That's very good, actually.
It's a really nice option. You also have a feature that another lupine feature that allows you to add on a little bonus to your initiative.
Okay.
Yeah, a little D4.
Which,
roll it.
If I remember correctly, champions already also get advantage on their initiative, correct?
So
you're also getting really good initiative.
Yeah, you're with the Heron you gain extra maneuverability option to get in and around. Oh, by the way, the bunny hop is limited to how many times
proficiency times per day.
Proficiency, yes, per day. So you can guaranteed be able to get in at least a minimum 2 times in or out of a dangerous situation, and because you're a little bonus feature for your initiative, and you're a little bonus feature for modifying your initiative, you can increase the probability of you being really high initiative and get into that spot to block for your wizard or someone else in combat.
This makes sense. I completely agree with it.
You also have proficiency in perception as well, particularly based around your hearing as well.
That makes sense. Similar to the lockdown with their smell.
Yep.
Neat.
And you can choose between small or medium.
My heart always goes out to the small species. I consistently pick small species, which I learned something today. Did you know that you can pick the small size when selecting a human?
A midget human?
You can pick the small size when picking a human. You have that option.
Yeah.
I did not know that till today while doing the figuring out my species for this.
Yep.
But, okay. So my number 2 actually I was a little bit curious for my number 2 if I was overvaluing something, right? Which is general movement. And I really enjoy that you selected movement as a huge priority for you for your fighter idea, right?
A small memo on movement. Apparently, some dungeon masters create encounters in tiny rooms for whatever crazy reason.
Yeah.
There's a Treant monk on YouTube who hated original monk because so many different reasons, but dismissed the ability for the monk to move really far very quickly as being a irrelevant feature because movement is not that important.
Yeah.
Even though it's literally one of the single most important.
One of the biggest things in the game.
It's one of the most powerful things you can do in any combat oriented game is the ability to adjust where you are in combat easily.
Yup.
So you know me, I love having characters like tabaxis and herongons and centaurs or any other species/race that has that extra little pep in their step. They can either fly over something like the owlin or the Aarakocra, or they're like tabaxi or herongon and centaurs where they have that extra little kick to their step and can move along quickly. So into your number 2.
You named it right there, the tabaxi.
Yep.
So for me,
one of my old favorites.
I've never really considered it as a good option for a fighter, but after looking into it, it really seems like it would shine really well. Because a significant time as a fighter, you are starting from further back where you're not already in, not that your allies are already in, but that your group is far from their group. And this additional movement, the 60 foot that you can close so quickly, or more if you even threw a dash in there, it allows you to very quickly maneuver into the battle, which, the way I look at it, with some things, adding consistency is big. If you aren't dealing any damage in a turn, if you don't even get the chance to attack, that's really, really bad in terms of your consistency. Yep. That's as bad as it can get.
Matt ran into that today against the Blue Dragon.
Exactly.
And he had to dash in with his barbarian, and he literally just got just short of the Blue Dragon and just stood there to get You get walloped.
is a net zero turn that turns into a negative from them all focusing on you and walloping you. It is a terrible experience.
Mm-hmm.
But Tabaxi solves that by being able to quickly get in. And not only that, when you start taking things out, you can, let's say that you went in and attacked and killed something. Well, now in your next move, you're still fighting it. Sorry, let's say you didn't quite kill something and then you finish it in your next turn. Then you can start moving again and you can do another dash and so on and so forth. You can quickly navigate your way around this battlefield using that. And so much of the time, the spellcasters are kind of backed up away. You can, similar to the Harengon, you can then, once you finish something, you can use this to go and quickly dash off using your movement and quickly get off 60 feet over to attack something off in the back line. So you and I were pretty much dead equal on our number 2. I think mine went more in the favor of the additional speed, and mine doesn't struggle in terms of the proficiency bonus per day. It's unlimited, but yours has the additional bit of not provoking opportunity attack if you need to get away, as well as the additional initiative. So I think they both definitely have their own benefits, but we both pretty much nailed like the exact same thing, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on the Tabaxi you want to sing the praises of?
No, Tabaxis are actually really cool.
Tabaxi is awesome. Tabaxi is one of my old standbys. I typically, every martial class and even spellcaster class, I will eventually make a Tabaxi character of that. Awesome.
I missed something.
Go for it.
If you get unarmed, it also doesn't matter if you get disarmed because your claws are strength mod.
Yeah.
You can still just use them.
Yeah. Awesome thing about Tabaxi is that your feline agility is a instantaneous, no action required, automatically tacks onto your movement an extra 60. It recharges if you ever stay in a spot for a turn with 0 movement spent. So you can go your 60 feet all the way up to your target.
Spend a turn attacking. You
got in your next turn, pound them again. You didn't do any movement, and it recharges, and then you could you finish off that enemy, and you could do that again to someone else, or you can extricate yourself out, or other fun stuff. Tabaxi also, if I remember correctly, has climb speed. They can climb up stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
So you have that touch of rogue option in there as well. They have dark vision, which is pretty essential for a lot of Dungeons & Dragons.
They don't seem like they come with much, but their kit is really good.
And they also have proficiency in perception, which is awesome in itself. It nice combos into their dark vision. So if you put a good bit of love into your wisdom stat and your perception, you have a highly perceptive character that can zip into the target, take them out very quickly, hit them, and then pop back and forth. Good old combo is tossing in either mobile or speed or any feature. Any feature that grants you free movement without opportunity attack, and you can just pink between enemies.
We should have ended up tacking on masteries. I suppose that'll be a different video.
Oh yeah.
We'll try not to go into it because it'll be its own
knocking
video.
enemies over as a Tabaxi, you just knock them over,
slowing things and kiting them. Yeah. Okay, we'll get another video. But
Tabaxi plays really well. The more clever you get, Tabaxi works really well with Paladin. Works really well. They are
Rogue. I imagine. I kind of wish that in John's campaign right now, I kind of wish I were a Tabaxi.
Yeah. If you went with like a rogue Tabaxi, you would have utterly insane movement capacity to get in and out of situations. And you would essentially have half the features of the thief rogue. You can essentially climb into wherever you want to go and stuff like that. And so you can compete on thief rogue level. It's only until like thief rogues get into their upper levels, those in which you kind of lose out against them. They still have that fun little feature where they can just use items on bonus action,
which I'm having fun with.
Yes, that's
good old wand of fireballs. Never lets you down.
And we had conversation, and we discovered terrifying options for various items.
Oh yeah, the cube of summoning.
Oh, my
You know, one that was really good, and it's not even a high rarity, is it was the Bag of Tricks, the one that summons the animals, and you just it's multiple times per day, so you can just sit here and just as a rogue every turn you're just all right. There's my next minion, and there's my next minion.
goddamn Pos.
Oh, Apostle's great. Oh, Apostle's
Nathan,
wonderful.
Nathan had a fun time with Pos summoning forth the army of goats. Goats
My goats
Lionel
were
the
beautiful.
Tiger and stuff like that. That's hilarious. Did I do my number 2?
Yeah, you did your number 2, which is Herringon. So now we're going into your number 1.
My number 1?
Yeah, your number 1.
Oh my goodness. There's so many options when it comes to number 1 or number 2 or number 3.
My number 1 and 2 are like tied for reference.
Yeah, when you're talking about like the top 3 or 4, you're getting really dicey.
I think for me, the human definitely falls behind my 1 and 2. Like there's a notable gap there.
Yeah, human is is the consistency option. So what is my number 1?
Yeah.
That is a really hard question. I see what your number 1 is, and I agree that is a awesome option in itself.
Yep.
Number 1 for say like a champion fighter. Oh my goodness. Important asterisk right here. A tangent, but still relevant.
There's a lot of other good options.
There's a lot
You're
of
not wrong for not picking these ones.
There's you're not wrong for picking these. However, also it's very important when playing with a dungeon master that every dungeon master has a natural favoring for different environments or scenarios and stuff like that. So any in the top 10% and of any species/race selection video, it largely depends on how the dungeon master will naturally set up scenarios.
That's true.
If
you could hypothetically be really poorly off for selecting these if a changeling would perform so much better in your DM's campaign.
Yeah.
Or maybe a Thrycreen.
Yeah. My number 1 for champion fighter, probably that's a really hard one, but let's go ahead and throw a centaur in there. You have a fun little charge attack. You can charge in, and you can actually when you attack on a charge, you can add an extra D something of damage onto your attack. I forget it, whether it's a D6 or a D8.
Okay.
So you have a nice little entry option to tack on a little damage for bursting enemies a little quickly.
Yeah.
You have 40 feet of movement. You count as a size larger when carrying and hauling things.
Now, didn't you just go over a same species like this?
Yeah, very much like Minotaur. That's also in the very same category.
Now, what differentiates the centaur from Minotaur?
Slightly different options. It's technically you're a horse person, so you can wear the horseshoes and stuff like that. It was like the first thing that came off the top of my head.
Yeah, you're good.
That doesn't overlap with your options. I would also probably say like Tabaxi's also in the top 3 as well, and a few other things.
There's a lot of competition up here.
It's ridiculous up here. If you're talking about like 2024 or kind of stuff, I would say human would be very strong in there. This is a really hard spot.
Does human put to your number 1, or you can steal my number 1 if you want, because it is a really good number.
Yeah,
1.
I do agree that your number 1 is actually a fairly solid in the top 4 zone, and the top 4 is really hard because you can swap them around. Actually.
Like the consistency that this gives you on a battlefield.
It's a consistency option. Centaur, Minotaur, are all really good consistency options. Herringon, Tabaxi, yeah.
I suppose without no more illusion, mine is the bugbear. So the +5 reach is already ridiculous because you're already reaching out 5 feet, so it's reaching out an additional 5 feet. So a longsword going out 10 feet, or if you go something that has reach like a glaive or a spear or a pike or something like that, halberd hypothetically, going out 15 feet to reach and then being able to opportunity attack from that distance, especially if you take something like Polearm Master, especially if you take something like Sentinel, it can be absolutely ridiculous.
This is my Burgar.
Yep. Additionally, on top of that, you do get surprise attack, which did change.
Mm-hmm.
It did change going into 2024. Previously, how surprise attack worked is it did 2d6 additional damage if the enemies hadn't gone in combat yet on your first attack. In the change, they removed it so it's no longer on your first attack. So if you have multi attack, you're going to get 2d6 onto every single attack. So, example, as a fighter, as a bugbear, you could go up there and you could swing with your great club or whatever it is twice, and you're doing an additional 2d6 for each one. And as a champion fighter, you're now chancing with a 19 or 20 crit. That's a 1 in 10 crit chance. 2 attacks, you're working at a 2 out of 10, so 1 in 5 crit chance, or more likely a 2 1 in 10 chances. Math works how it works. So on average, there's a good odds that you can end up pulling like 4d6s to 66s of damage just from your species itself. Not to mention the additional reach as well. Just the general consistency of damage that it brings is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention if you tried to work something in there like, let's say, a dex-based fighter that then is using a short sword with Vex with a dagger with Nick to then bonus action blah blah blah, you could go and get multiple attacks that have the bonus of your surprise attack on there.
Yeah.
I was actually looking at a monk build that I was figuring out similar to that uses the focus to get 3 attacks in a turn at level like 1 or 2, doing like 96s of damage by like level 1 or 2.
Yep. I do agree that Bugbear is an amazing option. I also know a part of me says that you chose Bugbear because it basically has the fundamental components of a rogue built into it. They also have sneaky
That's
characteristic
maybe
that
partially.
gives them proficiency in stealth. And
Imagine
stuff like
a dex-based fighter that's using their surprise attack.
Yep.
As well as having
basically
the
as a
reach.
sneak attack, yeah.
And then you've got Sentinel and other things to control the battlefield.
And they have dark vision too because they're good in the darkness.
I'm just saying, you could get in crazy starts of, and then your surprise attack is basically sneak attack.
Yep. I do agree that Bugbear is solidly in the top 3-4s. Well, let's call it tier 1. Or the S tier of options for species for or champion fighter.
We're putting Bugbear in these S tier, right?
The S tier with Tabaxi, Heron Human, and a few others on top of that. I do agree, Bugbear's amazing for champion fighter. What I did with Burgar, which is basically pronounces out to be burger, is that the same setup as you described it before. But instead, he was a giant fighter, or a rune knight fighter.
Rune knight, like Zeros.
So he could grow in size. He also had Sentinel and Polearm Master, and he used a glaive in combat, so he could swing out for that 20 or 25-foot range on his attacks.
And stop things where they stand as they approach.
Yeah,
beautiful.
He basically, I think there was that one shot where I played him, and I basically shut off all the enemies because they couldn't move past me.
That's wonderful.
So, and then the fluffy spellcasters basically stood behind me, plinking them. So it's really hard to make a true tanking build in Dungeons and Dragons.
But you really could do it there.
It's doable. And Bugbear is an awesome foundation option once you stuff Sentinel into him.
There's some good Artificer options for a tank, but
yeah, Artificer is also a really good option. There's not very many true by MMO concept tanks.
Yep.
Where you can literally lock your opponent down.
You can kind of do it with a Kender.
Yeah. You can try to do it with a Kender. You can try to do it with a few other subclass options.
Yep, with getting antagonized off different things. Yep.
But in the case of Bugbear with Sentinel, that is probably the closest thing to a true lockdown option.
I agree.
Because it's not even a matter of, oh, the enemy now has disadvantage for attacking someone else. They literally just can't physically move past you to
Yep.
attack
So
somebody
your
else.
your dungeon master pretty much has
Yeah.
to be running spellcasters or
Yeah.
ranged options, which the new DMG or not DMG, the new
Mhm.
monster manual does add a lot more ranged options to monsters.
Yep. That's exceedingly important, particularly if you decide to go with the route of say like tacking on like booming blade into this combo because you
Yep.
picked magic initiate, and
Yep.
so now you're swinging your big old glaive hitting people, and you're also tacking on booming blade to lock them down. You're stopping them, they can't move, and now if they move they get penalized
Yep.
even if you like walk away, and at that point you can move around on tapping people or
Yep.
locking them down, and they have to decide
Absolutely.
between taking extra damage or not. It's still not it's really important master level dungeon mastering.
Yeah.
There's nothing against giving any monster a ranged attack as long as it's either equal to or one die stage less
Then it's current
than
melee.
your melee attack.
Completely agree.
So, really clever dungeon masters, if you've seen like those shorts, people like posting, oh my goodness, this totally broken combo where my cleric bonks a person and it shoves them back, and they have I just said the name of the spell. Booming Blade, yes. They applied Booming Blade to their mace, and now the enemy got shoved back 10 feet and can't move.
You could also do
You can
something.
always just, as a DM, you can always, he throws a dagger at you, or
Yep.
he throws alchemist fire at you, and
All right.
give an option on that.
Those were our mechanic choices. I'm going to surprise you here. I haven't put thought into this, so we'll take a moment. What is your flavor choice of what you would pick for a fighter in terms of I'm just going to have fun with this species on a fighter? Flavor choice, fun option.
Flavor choice, fun option. I have a part of me says I might know what you might choose.
I'm going to pick all reliable.
Yeah, I know. If you're talking about champion options, flavor or something like that, Azamar might be an awesome one.
I could see
Just
that.
because you are a person who has a touch of divine power in you, and you're on the mortal plane, so you are a champion of the gods.
I could
born
see
to
that.
do so. It's also definitely in the top tier range, is because you have your various AoE effects, and depending on which one you choose, you have the flight option as well. So it's very thematic, and to sprout your wings and take flight, eat with your sword in hand.
I'm going to catch you off guard, by the way, because you think that I'm going to go grung. And I'm going to instead say a goblin. A goblin running around, wielding a small size, wielding like a great sword, just running around wildly flailing it, and you've got bonus action disengage as a fighter, so you can go and just fucking cleave into someone with a great sword, and then just run under their legs, just like dragging it behind you on the ground as you run up, and you could go and swing into another guy.
Yeah, I do agree.
You're just sprinting around the battlefield, being this absolute nuisance. That sounds fun and flavorful.
Yeah. Also, I would like to addendum another honorable mention is Owlin.
I agree. Eric Kokoro was kind of in there too. Yeah.
Eric Kokoro has superior flying range.
But I think that Owlin
And
gets a little bit
and
different
Owlin
things. I think
is-
perception.
It has a boost to perception, has dark vision, which Eric Kokoro does not have.
Yep.
It has shorter range, and it doesn't have the Talon attack.
Which the Talon would make sense with a fighter.
Yeah, Talons would be nice for a fighter. But Owlin is probably a little more even built and gives you a little more in other areas. So
I agree with that. All right.
and you have flight, so you can take flight and be a complete pain in the butt. And you still have dark vision, which is like the natural countermeasure to Eric Cocker, because Eric Cocker only has, you got talons, you can fly. That's it.
Yeah, that is about it for the Aarakocra. Do you have anything else on the champion fighter? Otherwise, we move on to the next topic and close out that topic.
My personal thoughts on the champion fighter is that it is a very good option. It is the I know this has been said before, even by Wizards of the Coast.
It's a nice and easy option for new players.
It's a nice, easy option for your players, and it's also the more fighter in your fighter kind of stuff.
It kind of is,
or
yeah.
it's the generic universal base fighter with just extra on top.
I agree with that.
So. And they now have that tactical feature in there, and
checking your
you get a little
second wind onto your checks. Yes.
Yep. And you can also whenever you're successful with that, you have tactical movement. You can move half your distance and adjust around on stuff like that. It's a lot more flexible overall.
All right.
And I think even at higher levels, if I remember correctly, you get advantage on your death saves.
That sounds correct.
Which is considered to be an exceedingly powerful feature for a class to have on their death saves.
Yes.
But people overlook the fact that the monk basically had universal in 2014 had universal proficiency to all saving throws. That includes death saves.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you're using Avery on Discord, it doesn't add that in.
Interesting.
You have to remember to add in your proficiency when you do death saves on Avery. Unless they change that. I haven't played a 2014 monk since I discovered that by accident.
I might make a monk soon. But anyways, so that's been the top species for 2024 champion fighter, as well as the top species outside of the 2024 rules. Mm-hmm. Mind you, it's worth noting that those other ones are allowed, assuming your DM's okay with it, but they are not legacy and no longer allowed. Mm-hmm. They are their current iterations generally allowed, from my understanding.
Minor note, I almost were tempted to say GIF, but one of their feature, a bunch of their features is a default set of features that you get in Champion Fighter.
Oh,
by default.
Yeah.
But not even the most powerful features. It's just the nice little extra cake on top.
Those GIF do have a lot of cake.
Yeah. They also have
I mean, huge asses, just for reference.
I know. But anyways, they also have automatic proficiency with guns, too.
That's true. That would be helpful in the current campaign.
Yeah. If you switch from the grung to a GIF, if you didn't have to go and get that extra feat.
Yep.
But anyways.
All right. We'll call it there on that one and move on.
Yep.